Hi, this is Jim of Animateducated, and today we have a special guest, Kat Alioshin, who's a stop-motion producer and director of a new film called Animation Outlaws.
And I just watched the Animation Outlaws movie that you made, and it was really fun to watch and kind of remember all the stuff that we both lived through. Some people haven't lived through it, as you know. So it was nice for you to, kind of give you that feeling of how it was, back then.
Thank you. I'm really happy with the amount of people that I interviewed that said yes. I mean, these are, people that are very busy and,
Right.
gone on to do big animated features and all that. So for them to give me their time, I was super happy. And then I used 65 clips of animation in there. So for me, that's what's fun. And actually I get to watch them in full. As a clip, you only see a little piece of it. So, but I made sure to add on the website, on Animation Outlaws website, there's an index that shows the order of appearance. So if anyone saw something and they don't remember the title, who did it, it's on the website. You can look up the director and the name of the piece.
And also how they, started, like Jerry Beck said, they started with nothing, and they came out of nowhere with nothing and made something. I think they made something myself, because they brought everybody together.
Yeah, well, there was, the European festivals that Spike and Mike traveled to get the shorts, but there wasn't a lot of U.S. Animated particularly. There were short film festivals, but not necessarily all animation. So they did pull that together, and that's their trademark. That's what they're known for. And so very proud to have been a part of it, and then also to now document it.
You made this because you worked with them before? You worked on the actual festivals?
I did, yeah. I was definitely part of their early, well, they started in 77 and I met them around 87. So they had been doing it for 10 years or so. But the way they went into towns and went to college campuses, and they didn't get into bigger theaters. They got into that sort of second run, smaller theaters, or even college auditoriums. So I was part of that. I met them in a sort of a college scenario, and said, I could make some extra money helping these guys out. And but it was such a big boost for me because I got exposure. I was able to watch all the films. I'd sell all the tickets, but then I'd run in the auditorium and sit there for 2 hours and just be amazed. And the way they had an intermission was so fun. Mike would get up on stage during that intermission and say, "Hey, we've got Nick Park's in the lobby. He's signing autographs or posters." And I mean, I have so many T-shirts that I had directors sign. I have Mobius. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the people that signed my T-shirts. And just that sort of entertainment quality. It wasn't just watching the shorts. You got to meet the people that made them, and that's huge.
Right.
But yeah, so then I was like, I want to hang out with these guys. They're fun. They're exposing me to all this. So I worked for them in late 80s. Kind of lost touch when I was doing all the other films and things. But when Spike came back to San Francisco, or when they did a few times in the 90s, I helped them out then. They did big Santa Cruz screenings. Big screening was UC Berkeley. They did the Wheeler Auditorium a lot, and that could hold, I mean, I don't know the count. I don't want to say it wrong, but that's a huge theater and would sell out every show. And Palace of Fine Arts sold out. I mean, talk about audience, people getting to see it's not just stop motion, short animated films with such a huge audience. I mean, it's amazing.
I remember going to one of the shows, and I actually I got to see Scotty devour some balloons on stage, which was hilarious.
And he was a wild dog, and he really was so focused. I took from Nick Park's idea of where you recorded people's voices first. So I got Spike and had him just talk about things, and then pulled it together in a piece. And so Tim animated 2 of the pre-recorded Spike voice. So we had sort of built around that, but wanted to show the wild, wild west, like these guys were the outlaws and had come in from pulling everything together, making this program on their own. So that's why I use sort of the Western theme. And the little cactuses, I have some in the background. I have some here, but wanted to sort of layer then collage all the festival flyers on the cactus, and that was fun to do too. So here's Spike. Doo-doo-doo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I had, I mean, this was, I didn't spare any expense on this wonderful little puppet. Because I actually have so many contacts, having worked in stop motion animation in particular for 25 years. So I've got a Merrick Cheney armature in here, and he's, you know, well known and kind of one of a kind armature builder. All the big animated features have at least a couple of puppets made, not the whole puppet, but the armature made by Merrick Cheney. And he's Bay Area. He's up here. His company's Machinations. Damon Bard did my full sculpt. Damon Bard is a fantastic clay sculptor. He's like a lot of clay people have gone on to do learning ZBrush and all that stuff, but had him do this one in clay for me, and then molded and casted. Victoria Rose Most did my casting. Bird McCargar did the costume piece. So it's built just like it's just built like a feature puppet, even though it's just for 3 minutes. Had Tim Hiddle, another local seasoned stop motion animator, animated him for me, along with the little Scotty dog. And this is done in his garage, you know, and his kids are upstairs running around playing, and he's downstairs after they go to bed and working on it. So I gave him sort of this extended time to do it because I knew he's like a stay-at-home dad. And so he did it over the course of probably about 5 months. No, it's really fun. It's Spike's little, it's a replacement mouth. So you take out the mouth for the expression. And that way you're not having to deal with the whole head coming on and off or anything like that. And little Vaseline on the eyes, and the pupils just move around that way. But yeah, he's very articulated, and he can do a lot. So he's been on all the journeys with me I take, and people love to see, because they don't get the scale either. So it's nice to see this is what the scale is. But yeah, Spike. And I didn't let Spike see him during the process. Well, first of all, it's my documentary directing, producing, and I was like, I didn't want Spike to be that involved, you know, because he would have a lot of opinions about it, but also because his belly, and I knew Spike wouldn't like this caricature of himself. But anyway, he's awesome, awfully cute.
Was it your first that you worked on was Nightmare Before Christmas?
It certainly was. What a great film. And I've gone on to do this podcast, the We Know Jack show, that sort of reminds me, but we didn't know as a crew that what we were working on at the time. I mean, we thought it was pretty cool, and having done a stop motion feature that had fully animated, not like King Kong where there was stop motion creatures, or any of the Ray Harryhausen's interaction with humans. This was fully stop motion. But we did, yeah, 1991 is when I started on that, and it was released in 93. So many years of working in that in San Francisco as well. It's kind of cool that it was done up here. And then went on to work with Henry on a few more projects, Henry Selick, including James and the Giant Peach, which is an interaction of live action and stop motion too. And then Monkey Bone.
If you're a Nightmare Before Christmas fan, or even if you're just interested in how stop motion is done or anything like that, it's really nice because it's all the people that worked on it, and you interview them. They tell you everything, like what happened.
One particular scene that keeps getting mentioned by several people, and they're not like sort of communicating, is Anthony Scott's the graveyard scene where Jack as Santa Claus falls into the graveyard. And I just want to mention that because Anthony Scott did my titles for the documentary Animation Outlaws. I gave him pieces of the flyers. So when you see the title credits, it's actually flyer cut out. And we had a guy up in Canada, Alex, cut out all the flyers, send them down to Anthony, also in his garage, actually might have been his living room. And he did a down shooter kind of hinge animation. So that's all frame by frame as well. But Anthony Scott, who did that scene in Nightmare that people talk about so much. But I do like the podcast in the sense too that we're having this conversation with other crew members, and it sort of comes out a little more casually and a little sort of exciting that way, like you're almost talking to them. I mean, the audience members can just be feel like they're sitting there talking with them. But yeah, coming up with stories that, because we had the 25-year anniversary just a few years ago for Nightmare, and we were hearing these stories amongst each other. And Todd Lookenland, my co-host, he's like, we should get some of this. We should have people talk about this so other, the fans can hear what went on behind the scenes.
Looking Land. I mean, that's an unusual name, Looking Land. The only other Looking Land I can remember is the kid that was Bobby Brady, the actor. Was that him?
Yes, it is.
Impressive.
And Todd, if you look up Todd, he was a actor himself as a young kid. He was in a couple of feature films, and yeah, he did some TV series. I can't even remember right now. He would be mad at me for not remembering. But anyway, he was a child actor, but he helped build all the sets on Nightmare.
And you also made a few other short films. You made something called Mermaids on Mars.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity to utilize the Bay Area crew. So many people that worked on Nightmare and James the Giant Peach remained up in this area. They'd all come from Star Wars and ILM, which is still up here as well. So we had all this model making people. So it was great to join with Athena Studios in Emeryville and pull together crew for Mermaids. And sweet story, personal sort of passion project. Nancy Goutier was the one who paid for the project, and actually it's her story as well. So a lot of fun making that, and a little combo of live action as well, live action stop mo.
And it gives it a different look. It doesn't, it doesn't give you that computer, graphics look. It's more like, there's depth to it. There's something about it.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
Tim Hiddle actually came in on that one, Justin Cohn and Amy Adamy. So we had a nice small animation group.
What have you learned so far about producing stop motion animation as opposed to other?
Well, I'll tell you what, I love getting emails from people saying, hey, we want to try this stop motion. And I get on the phone. The first thing I tell them is it's going to take a while. They don't, a lot of people don't understand that sort of frame by frame. It needs time. Even your average feature should take over a year to make. And so people get a little bit concerned about the length. So it's kind of that, just teaching them how wonderful it can look and that it will take a long time. But yeah, it's very unique, and I'm happy to say that there's definitely other producers out there that can deal with stop motion animation, but I have such a connection with it, having come up from 25 years of basically mostly stop motion feature work. So it's something it's a niche to try to schedule. Everything from which you don't normally talk about, which is building the bodies for puppets, and the tiny, everything scaled down. So people being able to build scaled down models that we work on. Camera crews can kind of do the adjustment from live action over into stop motion, but there's still a whole, all the lights they're smaller. You're not using these big, huge lights, and we try to put a lot of motion control and camera moves in. So we ask the camera crews to know how to do all that. But it's definitely unique in figuring it out. So budgets, it's something that I like to say that I've got a handle on, and happy to do any stop motion budgeting. So it's definitely unique it's not like any live action I've ever done.
I mean, when I thought about stop motion, I always think like, oh, it's just one set. There's an animator and a camera, and they sit there and they do their shot, and then they go off and they put another set down or something. At Vinton, it was a TV show called Gary and Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a huge, like stage, and everybody had a little like corner that they clothed off and everything, and it was amazing to walk through there and to see that, oh yeah, I'm doing the close-ups of this, and he's doing the big stuff over there, and we got the other one over, and it made sense. It was like that.
Yeah, you couldn't have just one set going. And so something like Nightmare, there was more than 18 jacks built, if you can imagine that. And because you have spares, and then you have someone, but anyway, there was like 18 animators working on shots that had Jack in them. He's in a lot of the shots, and most of them. So you can just, the detail of costumers having to match Jax has to look the same in every shot. So even the stripe on his pants, you had to make sure that was in exactly the same place. Those ended up being silk screened on, but at one point we were hand painting. Just intensity that when you have multiples like that. So that's another thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. When you're trying to schedule, you usually figure out multiples of characters because they're expensive. I mean, America Armatures, I'm not going to throw them out under the bus, but just all into with Merrick and costuming and hard part, soft part, you're up to $15,000 a puppet, so that's another thing when people look at the budget and they're like, well, why do we need 10 of them? Like, well, because you want to do it in 6 months or, however they want to try to figure it out. So
Right.
It's unique to stop motion.
Yeah, and puppets break, arms break, things fall off, gravity happens, all that stuff. So anyway, so we started talking about, so you're producing this new film.
It is the Inventor about Leonardo DaVinci, and I am so excited. I met Jim a while back, but I have budgets from back like 2014. We've been working on this for a while, and it's definitely getting legs right now. And Robert Ripperger is the producer overall, getting us all the financing and everything like that. But Jim is the heart and soul of this, and it's definitely a passion project for him. So it's very exciting to see the animatic coming together. And the animatic is when, you storyboard the whole thing out, you start putting it to the dialogue in the script. You can even add music and sound effects to your animatic to kind of get it more exciting. And we're doing that as well. But feature film about Leonardo da Vinci, and it's precious and awesome. And I can't wait to actually physically start working on it.
And it's nice because it's not just it's not just going to be a stop motion film, but you also have you're going to have Tom Moore. He's going to be doing the animation 2D for it. And
thank you. And you just think about Leonardo and how prolific he was in documenting everything. It's kind of this, we're documenting him documenting things, but the way you can almost see his mind and everything's going on at once and what he's thinking. So we play with that, like how would you show an actor thinking a lot, right? Well, we've got Stephen Fry as Leonardo's voice. So he'll, when he's been having these thoughts of like how to do something, the audience will get to see all these different ideas. It's all coming together. So we hope we're actually in sort of a pre-production phase where we're getting some design work done and the animatic as well. But the Folioscope, the company that's doing the stop motion animation, wants to sort of start digging into the design work. So that's happening in the next month or two.
Okay. Do you have an idea when this might be done? Roughly?
See, talk about time. The audience will not see this until probably December 2022 or January 2023. So it's a ways off.
Hopefully by then we'll have the whole COVID thing figured out and everybody can get back and actually see it in a big movie theater.
Yeah. Ideally, yeah.
Yeah. How's the COVID thing happening for you guys?
Well, we all of us sort of on the West Coast are doing the remote thing, and because we're sort of this independent European style film, we've got people in Ireland and France. And the French company Folioscope is actually shooting a feature now, and they're dealing with, they've separated out stages and everyone's wearing masks and they're dealing with the COVID that way, just being safe. But yeah, we're still remote at this point.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the Animateducated show here and talking about what you do and what you're working on now and what you're going to be doing in the rest of the few years to come.
Thank you. I'd love to have people see my film, just so there's so much animation in it, and the Animation Outlaws. And then of course look forward to having people see the Inventor, the Leonardo da Vinci project.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and if you'd like to see more interviews like that, go ahead and press that button right there, and you'll be subscribed to this channel. We also have some other videos. Here's one up here, and there's one up there, and thanks for watching.